Alright guys, so week 3 of the NFL season is over, and so right now I'm just gonna do a quick analysis on week 3, some predictions for week 4, and some like fantasy things that you should probably know for week 4. So listen up. Let's start with the Thursday night game, the Niners versus the Rams. So basically it's two 1-2 NFC East teams. They both desperately need a win. The Niners, well, Harbaugh really is just absolutely pissed off that they lost 2 games in a row. So we're gonna look for a big rebound game for the Niners against the Rams. And let's be honest here, the Rams really haven't gotten off to a good start, and against the Niners, I don't think they're going to actually rebound and get that 2-2 win. And so my guess is the Niners are going to get a solid win. Fantasy-wise, we saw how Romo and Dez Bryant lit up the Rams last week, so it's safe to think that Anquan Bolden and Colin Kaepernick will do the same against this Rams defense. Also, remember DeMarco Murray? Yeah, so watch for Frank Gore to have similar success. Also remember, Frank Gore was just like, hey Harbaugh, what the fuck are you doing? Give me some more touches. So expect Harbaugh to give Frank Gore those touches and for him to wreck the Rams. So 49ers win there. Now let's go to the Ravens-Bills game. It's going to be interesting. EJ Manuel's trying to prove himself. CJ Spiller needs to put on a show before his fantasy owners kill themselves. And, well, the Ravens D is alright. Yeah, they kept the Texans to like 9 points, but that doesn't really prove anything yet. But the real point of this game is basically CJ Spiller really needs to come out and play. On the other hand, it looks like Ray Rice is coming back this week, so I wouldn't start Bernard Pierce. If you really don't have a flex option, then fine, play Bernard Pierce, but this, again, doesn't mean that you should expect too much from Ray Rice either. Remember, he's coming back from an injury, so don't expect too much. I expect Harbaugh to split the touches between Bernard Pierce and Ray Rice like 50-50 or 60-40 at the most. I think the Ravens should probably win this one, unless CJ and Fred like somehow run over 200 yards this game, but otherwise I don't think EJ Manuel is mature enough or frankly good enough to beat this Ravens defense and outscore Joe Flacco. Also, look for Torrey Smith to come out in this game, maybe get like 100 yards, a couple touchdowns. And Joe Flacco shouldn't be terrible. That Bills defense really isn't that great, and their secondary, again, not that great. Moving right along to the Cardinals and the Bucks. God, this game is going to be absolutely garbage. However, don't be fooled. The Bucks secondary is still pretty good, so don't be surprised if Larry Fitzgerald doesn't score over 20 points for you in fantasy. It really also doesn't help that Carson Palmer garbage is throwing to him. But if you really don't have a defense, you can try the Cardinals, because let's be honest here, Josh Freeman's going to commit at least 3, 4, 5 turnovers in this game, and the Honey Badger looks pretty hungry. Also look for Doug Martin. He should put up some points, but then again, just don't expect things from your running backs in general in fantasy. They've been quite a disappointment. My best guess is that the Cards will come out on top and the Bucks will drop to 0-4 as the Cards go to 2-2, which really plays out interesting for the NFC West right now. The Cards at 2-2, Niners at 2-2, Rams 1-3, and the Seahawks, my guesses are going to be 4-0 next week. But yeah, I wouldn't really watch this game if I were you. It's going to be a lot of garbage. Let's go on. Now we go overseas to London, where the winless Steelers and Vikings face off in the ultimate battle of garbage. So if you're streaming a defense, pick up the Vikings. Definitely pick up the Vikings. We saw what the Bears did to the Steelers offense last week. 20 points. I had 3 leagues in which teams had the Bears defense being their highest scoring player. So let the Vikings do that for you this week. They definitely have the talent and the potential to score 20 points off the Steelers offense. So definitely do it. However, the one thing to consider is that Le'Veon Bell is most likely going to be back this week. So keep that in mind, and if he's still on the waiver wire, you should probably go grab this guy. He has some risk to him, but again, he has a great upside. He should be a solid 2 running back or a flex option. But I think the Vikings actually come out and win this one, as unclutched the Vikings are. They did make the playoffs last year. That was a miracle, but the Steelers just look awful right now. And with injuries, they don't look too good. I'm expecting the Vikings to come out and win this one and drop the Steelers to 0-4. Now let's move on to the Giants and the Chiefs game. Well, at least I did, expected the two teams to come in with a collective 3 wins and 3 losses, but I don't think anyone really predicted that the 3 wins would have been for the Chiefs and the 3 losses for the Giants. I expected like a 2-1 Giants and a 1-2 Chiefs. But anyway, the Giants are playing just god-awful football right now. Tom Coughlin's job is on the line, looks like. If they don't pull it back in this game and beat the Chiefs, well, I don't even freaking know. The Giants are just god-awful. In any case, Eli Manning really needs to get back on track, and most importantly, David Wilson, or whoever is going to be running the ball, needs to actually be good. That's the important part here. Alex Smith looks really solid right now with Jamal Charles because they fit so goddamn well in that freaking Andy Reid's offense. But when you look at the Chiefs receivers, don't give on Dwayne Bowe yet. I mean, to be honest, Donnie Avery looks like he's Smith's new favorite and new number 1. But don't give up on Dwayne Bowe. He's not completely gone yet. I would wait a few more weeks before you move him to that flex position. But if you really feel like, just wait this week, and if he doesn't produce for you, then drop him back down. Fantasy-wise, all you really need to get out of this one is that basically the Giants are freaking garbage. Don't play the Giants. Victor Cruz should be a number 1 wide receiver. Right now, I'd be playing him at a 2 or even the flex. Same goes for Hakeem Nicks, probably a flex player at the most because Eli Manning's playing garbage football right now. And the Giants really cannot get on a roll. So until that changes, the Giants equal garbage. Next, we move on south to Jacksonville for the Colts-Jags game. The Colts looked pretty good against the Niners Sunday, and the Jags, well, are the Jags, and still awful. So we're going to watch for Andrew Luck to light up the Jags secondary. Look for a solid game from Trent Richardson and expect yet another loss for the Jags. Fantasy-wise, Andrew Luck should obviously be solid again. Do not start Ahmad Bradshaw over Trent Richardson. Like, seriously, don't do that. I can almost guarantee you that you'll regret it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that T. Rich is going to be amazing. But I'm just saying, do not start Ahmad Bradshaw over Trent Richardson. Ahmad Bradshaw is still a handcuff. Also, if Justin Blackmon is on the wire, go ahead and grab him. He should be a solid flex option. And no one really knows what's going on with Maurice Jones-Drew. I don't even know what to say on Maurice Jones-Drew. He's just not producing at all. So, just in general, like I already said, running backs should not be expected to score over 20 points for you. Just don't expect that. Just save yourself the disappointment. seriously, running backs, not something to be happy about in the fantasy leagues right now. With that, we're going to move on to the Seahawks-Texans game. So, at the beginning of the season, let's be honest, we were all, especially I was, very excited for this game. Two teams with great balance of offense and defense, both Super Bowl contenders, going at it. Unfortunately, from what the Texans showed us against the Ravens, they look pretty awful right now. 9 points, really? 9 points. Now, I've always said that Matt Schaub is not good. He is not a good quarterback. And what did I tell you? You saw it last week. Matt Schaub just isn't good. In any case, Andre Johnson's not at 100%. Don't expect him to produce. Owen Daniels is being awful. And Arian Foster nor Ben Tate look good at all. I mean, it was supposed to be Arian Foster as your number one running back and Ben Tate as your handcuff. Yeah, they both look pretty bad right now. I'm watching for the Seahawks to just maul right over the Texans. Russell Wilson should have another solid game, play their wide receivers, like Sidney Rice, Ben Tate, or Golden Tate. Definitely play them. Because Ed Reed definitely did not look back at 100%. Not to mention that Andre Johnson is kind of injured right now. He's also not at 100%. Basically, the Texans' offense kind of blows right now, which really doesn't make any sense, but they do anyway, and the Seahawks are just damn good. So we expect a solid win from the Seahawks, and for the Texans to go down to 2-2. Now, the Bengals-Browns. The Browns might have won a close game against the Vikings, who, by the way, can't win a game, but it's still too early to buy into them. Furthermore, we have no idea what in the world they're doing. So, last week they trade away their best player, Trent Richardson, for a first-round pick, but then they come around and beat the awful Vikings, a game that they should have and could have easily lost. Yeah, I'm just as confused as you are right now, but even if you don't buy the Browns, I'm still buying Jordan Cameron. Definitely pick him up, definitely start him. He's a really solid guy right now. But on the other hand, do not pick up Hoyer yet. You need to calm down. You've seen him one game. One game's not nearly enough to say that, oh, Hoyer's good. Okay, seriously, don't do that. But the Bengals D should definitely score you some solid points. AJ Green really needs to step it up. He's another one of those big-time, big-name fantasy players that is really being an asshole right now to us. Don't expect too much from Green Ellis, but, you know, he'll be okay. If you really don't have a running back, play him as your second running back. Meh. Look for the Bengals to have another win coming off that momentum from the big game from Green Bay on Sunday. And look for the Browns to drop to 1-3. Now, the Bears-Lions. Oh, this should be really interesting. So I'm going to start with the Bears. On offense, they are going to need to throw the ball quite a bit, I think, considering that the Lions' defensive line is seriously one of the best in the NFL. Like, seriously one of the best. Also, we're going to look for Jay Cutler to step it up again, produce some big numbers for the Bears. As Lions don't have that great of a secondary, look for Brandon Marshall to actually put up some numbers this week. Yet another fantasy star that hasn't been too good to his fantasy owners. And the Bears D put on exhibition against the Steelers. I think they'll probably be just as solid this week against the Lions. But they're still not too great on that secondary, especially if Charles Tillman is still out. So Calvin Johnson should you should be wary of Calvin Johnson. And but if Charles Tillman does play, it could be difficult for the Lions to get something going on the offense, considering that they're without Reggie Bush or Nate Burleson because broken arm. Remember that. Do not play him this week. Do not play Nate Burleson this week. Seriously. Yeah, because they don't have that opposite threat, opposite of Calvin Johnson, their offense is going to have a hard time starting up, my guess is. And the Lions offense really needs to get their running game going. If they, and by they I mean Joey Bell, can do that, then the Lions should not get blown out of this ball game. However, on the defensive side of the ball, the Lions shouldn't be terrible. They should be able to shut down Matt Forte with one of the greatest D-lines in the NFL. And this should force Jay Cutler to step up. Ultimately, this game comes down to the two QBs, Cutler and Stafford, both looking to prove themselves as one of the elites in the NFL right now. My prediction is that Stafford, being the mistake-prone QB that he is, will give the Bears the too many opportunities, and then Cutler and the Bears will move on to be 4-0. My lord, the Bears 4-0. Wow. Okay, moving on. Now, incredibly, the Titans and Jets are both somehow 2-1. I don't know. In any case, both teams have been propelled by not their running games, unfortunately, but by their young QBs, Jake Locker and Geno Smith. But going back to their running games, drop Chris Ivory. He's absolute garbage. I don't even know why I believed in him before the beginning of the season. But Powell is a must-get for your fantasy team right now. If he's on the waiver wire, someone's being dumb. If he's not, and you don't have a running back, trade for him because he's going to be that runner for the Jets. Anyways, going back to the QBs, Jake Locker and Geno Smith, neither of them have been really perfect, but they've been good enough to score their teams 2 wins each. But really, I mean, Geno Smith and Jake Locker, they both had great fantasy numbers. I would wait a few more weeks to see that they're consistent before picking them up, unless you really need someone. If it's a bye week and your quarterback has a bye, and you really need a quarterback, look for the matchups. Don't just go with Jake Locker or Geno Smith. In any case, unless CJ Half K gets back into CJ 2K form, I think the Titans offense is going to have a really hard time getting through this Jets defense, who, in my opinion, are a top 8 defense in the NFL right now. We have 2 young QBs trying to prove their worth in the league. I think Geno Smith is going to outduel Jake Locker, not necessarily because he's better, which in my opinion I think he is. He just has better physical instincts than Jake Locker, but that's beside the point. But because the Jets D is going to outplay the Tennessee offense, the Jets are probably going to win this one, go on to 3-1, while the Titans drop to 500. All right. Oh, not to mention that Chris Johnson, obviously, he probably won't get back in form against this Jets defense, is my guess, because their defensive line, their front 7 is just terrifying, but especially their line. So don't expect big things from Chris Johnson. If you picked him up as your number 1 running back, I'm really sorry. This week is probably not going to be his week. All right, moving on. The Redskins-Raiders game, my lord, this game is going to be just a lot of garbage and a lot of Terrell Pryor. So the Redskins look god-awful right now. The defense is one of the very worst, if not the worst in the league, and their offense is getting on track too late. They're not scoring enough points in the first half, and RG3 isn't at 100%. If you look at RG3's throws right now, he's too hesitant stepping into his throw. And so what we're seeing is that his throws are lacking velocity, the zip that he used to have on the ball, and accuracy. Not only that, but he's rusty. I mean, he's not making the best decisions right now. You saw that fumble this last week that he had. Didn't look pretty, and he's not having that same success that he had last year running the football. So what we're going to see is that the Redskins are basically garbage right now. Furthermore, Alfred Morris, I mean, he's been alright, but if you don't have RG3 producing at the level that he was producing last year, you need Alfred Morris to step it up, and unfortunately he hasn't done that, and it doesn't look like he's going to do that against the Raiders either. But to easily put this game's preview in your mind, imagine what you would have thought would have happened in this game before the season began if the Redskins had a healthy RG3. Alright, now I just want you to switch the names of the teams, and that's basically what this game is going to be. If you don't have a quarterback this week that's going to be good, pick up Terrell Pryor, because my guess is he's going to light it up against this terrible Redskins defense as the Redskins drop to 0-4. Alrighty, so with that, we're going to move on to the Eagles-Broncos game. Now, after week 1, after we saw Chip Kelly's fast, high-octane offense with Michael Vick and LeSean McCoy and Deshaun Jackson, I thought the Eagles-Broncos game was going to be a shootout. I think it's still going to be a shootout, but it's not going to be as close as I imagined after week 1. Basically, the Eagles, I thought, would slow down like around week 10, but it looks like they're already slowing down. LeSean McCoy is still very solid. Remember, LeSean McCoy is still very, very solid, but guys like Michael Vick, Deshaun Jackson, Jason Avant, Riley Cooper, Brent Selleck, these guys are probably not going to be consistent this year because of the way Chip Kelly's running this offense. And especially after week 10, don't expect them to produce. I think they're going to be worn down, to be honest. Michael Vick has age on him. And he hasn't been the healthiest player anyway, so with all that in mind, you can't expect Michael Vick to be consistent week in and week out. On the other hand, oh my lord, Peyton Manning looks like a freaking cyborg right now. 12 touchdowns in the first 3 games. He's averaging 4 touchdowns a goddamn game. Alright? He has Wes Welker, Eric Decker, Demaryius Thomas, Julius Thomas to throw to, and he's utilizing all of them in his aerial attack, which is absolutely terrifying right now. So my guess is, while I don't think LeSean McCoy is going to be able to keep pace with Peyton Manning's aerial attack, and so my guess is the Broncos are going to win this one big, as the Eagles don't look very good right now. Fantasy-wise, when you're playing with Broncos receivers, unless you have Julius Thomas, who has been really good. If you have Demaryius Thomas, Eric Decker, or Wes Welker, to be honest, I wouldn't play them as your number 1 wide receiver, just because they have to split the touches with the other wide receivers. And that's not to say that they're not going to be good. It's just to say that they're not going to get you 20 points unless Peyton Manning's throwing 3 touchdowns to them. So keep that in mind. No Sean Marino. I know I said he was going to be good. I mean, he was pretty awful, let's be honest here. The Broncos running backs, just don't play them unless you really don't have a running back, because they're rotating through 3 right now, and it doesn't look like any one of them is going to consistently get over 100 yards a game, and so don't expect anything from that. If and when Monte Ball actually matures and is getting more of those goal line touches, you can pick him up, and he might become like a Joey Bell. But just watch for that. Now we're going to move on to the Cowboys-Chargers game. I had the Cowboys going to the Super Bowl this year. from the NFC. That's just, like a dark horse candidate, of course. The Chargers, we were all excited because we're like, oh my god, Phillip Rivers is back to all-pro form. Just kidding. As he and Eddie Royal came back down to earth. And like I said, remember, Eddie Royal was a bust. I called it. I freaking called it. I told you. If you picked up Eddie Royal, I think you might as well drop him. Let's be honest, Phillip Rivers is not back in shape. My best guess is that he's not going to be back in shape for the rest of the season. The Cowboys, on the other hand, Tony Romo looked pretty good. Same with Dez Bryant this last week. And DeMarco Murray, oh, goddamn. Wow, DeMarco Murray. But, again, don't expect that from DeMarco Murray every single week. Or from any running back, really. But Tony Romo should be as solid as he was, or even more, against the Rams. Same goes for Dez Bryant. So definitely start both of them. Definitely start DeMarco Murray as well. This should be an easy win for the Cowboys if they actually play up. If the Cowboys defense can also disrupt the Chargers like they did against the Rams, then this should be almost a blowout game for the Cowboys. Don't expect anything from the Chargers. I mean, if you really don't have a quarterback, you might as well start Phillip Rivers, but Phillip Rivers, gross. Moving on to the Patriots and Falcons. Yeah, I'm not really sure how the Patriots are 3-0. They're 3-0, but they still blow, okay? And the Falcons team, this Falcons team should definitely not be 1-2, but with Roddy White not being at 100%, with Matt Ryan not being clutch again, with Steven Jackson being out, they're struggling, but I think that the Falcons should be able to beat the Patriots this week. Expect big numbers from Julio Jones and Matt Ryan. Hopefully Tony Gonzalez can get back on track after he skipped camp because he's a dumbass. Jacquizz Rodgers should put up decent numbers again this week, at least up until Steven Jackson returns. Keep your eye on Roddy White. He's not back at 100% yet, but don't give up on him. Don't drop him. On the Patriots side, Tom Brady, he didn't look like vintage Tom Brady per se, but he did enough to get it done against the Buccaneers secondary, who, like I said, aren't that bad. However, you're looking at Julio Jones and Tony Gonzalez against Edelman, Dobson. But the one good thing is that the Patriots may be getting Gronk back, which would be a great plus for Tom Brady. And which, by the way, that reminds me, start Gronk this week, probably. Just watch Saturday night, see what they say. Sunday morning, check what they say. If he looks probable, you might as well start him unless you have a top-notch tight end, because he should produce for you this week. With Tom Brady, I don't expect Tom Brady to have massive numbers, but I think the Falcons are going to win this one, and the Patriots are going to get that loss they actually deserve. Now, moving on to the last game, Monday night game, the 3-0 Dolphins against the 3-0 Saints. Now, I expected the Saints to be 3-0, but the Dolphins to be 3-0. Like the Patriots, 3-0, but they still blow. When looking at this game, you're going to look at Drew Brees and Ryan Tannehill. Drew Brees had a fabulous game last week. What was that, 31 points on fantasy, I want to say. You're probably going to see that again. We saw Cameron Wake. He has an injury, and so there's definitely going to be less pressure on that Saints offense, giving Drew Brees more time, and the Dolphins secondary really isn't that great, so we're going to look for guys like even Kenny Stills. We're going to look for Colson, Lance Moore, maybe Robert bench him definitely. We're going to look for these guys to be open. We're definitely going to look for Jimmy Graham to haul in a couple of those big throws from Drew Brees. He looks like he's Drew Brees' favorite target right now, and if he continues to play the way he's playing right now, he should be throughout the rest of the season. So if you got Jimmy Graham, good for you, because he's doing damn good right now. The Dolphins, on the other hand, my prediction is the Dolphins are going to be like what the Cards were last season. The Cards went 4-0, and we're all like, oh my Lord. I even said that the Cards were going to go to the freaking Super Bowl. Although I did call the Ravens, but that's beside the point. But I think you saw how they crash and burn, and I think that's what's going to happen to this Dolphins team. Their defense is going to deteriorate. They're going to be scored on too much. Ryan Tannehill is going to get too much placed on him, too much responsibility placed on him, and he's going to have to make some tougher throws that I don't think that he's going to be able to make. I don't think he's at that level yet. I don't think he'll truly ever be at that level. I don't think he'll be an elite quarterback. But look for them to put up a fight against the Saints this week. It's going to be interesting. Lamar Miller should get some solid yards and some solid points for you on fantasy this week. Also, if you don't have Brian Hartline yet, and he's still on the waiver, which would be amazing, definitely grab him, at least for this week, if you don't have a wide receiver. For the Saints running backs wise, just quit. Drew Brees is enough, let's be honest here. Drew Brees is enough for that Saints offense. For both the teams' defense, like I already said, Cameron Wake's injured. That Dolphins defense doesn't look to be as strong. And my best guess is they're going to start to deteriorate. And the Saints defense they've been surprisingly good. And so I'm expecting a big win for the Saints in, let's say, the third and fourth quarter, while the Dolphins are going to try to put up a fight. So with that, that ends my NFL, I'm going to call it Week 3.5 analysis, predictions, and fantasy help. If you have any questions, you can comment down below, and I'll probably be back next week.